wrongdoing. Congressman Mark Meadows has confirmed that the whistleblowers have, in fact, turned over hundreds of foundation documents to lawmakers and potentially now shedding light into the Clintons' cloud of corruption. We're talking about information surrounding quid pro quo promises made to big donors while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State and the commingling of funds with the foundation and the Clintons' private money, and so much more, including one glaring example when Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, remember this deal, signed off on sending 20% of our uranium, the foundational material for nuclear weapons, to Vladimir Putin. And by the way, this occurred as the Clinton Foundation was receiving millions and millions of dollars from the chairman of Uranium One and all the banks involved. Now, think about this. We knew that Putin had an operatives inside the United States. William Campbell was a spy within that network, identifying bribery, extortion, kickbacks, and money laundering. And guess what? Robert Mueller was the FBI director. And in the end, Putin not only got the foothold into our uranium market, the deal happened, and none of those people got in trouble. But the Clintons got their money. They got the kickback to the foundation in terms of millions and millions of dollars. So tonight, an investigation we now know, as of yesterday, is ongoing. And I've said over and over, it is time in America, if we care about our constitutional republic, that we end a two-tiered justice system, that we have equal application of our laws and equal justice under the law. And now we do have more good news. A federal judge just today agrees with me. Judge Royce Lamberth, who's overseeing Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act lawsuit that involves Hillary's secret server email saga. Well, he dropped a major bombshell this week about just how far the government is willing to go to skirt transparency laws, writing, quote, "At best, the state's attempt to pass off its deficient search as legally adequate during settlement negotiations was negligence born out of incompetence. At worst, career employees in the state and justice departments colluded to scuttle public scrutiny of Clinton, skirt FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, and hoodwink this court." And he didn't stop there, calling the Clinton email affair, quote, "one of the gravest modern offenses to government transparency." This judge has now ordered additional fact-finding in the case, but this is massive news, and we'll continue to keep you updated. All right, here to go through all of the day's news, Fox News contributor and, of course, investigative reporter Sarah Carter, the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax, The Illicit Scheme to Clear Hillary Clinton, Frame Donald Trump, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. The one thing as I read through this, we got a lot of interesting things here. We got a lot of really big sins, like, and by the way, don't lie on a loan application. And if you owe the taxes, pay the taxes. That's my advice. Because obviously you're going to get in a lot of trouble. And when you read these things, you say, okay, people did wrong things here. But none of it, not one bit of it, Greg Jarrett, has to do with Trump, Russia, and collusion. And it seems that the media is only fixated on one thing, and that was Michael Cohen's payment as it relates to Stormy and Karen McDougal, as somehow we now have a campaign finance violation. Well, I've got a whole list of them here of Obama and a bunch of other people that committed them, too.
And they're civil penalties. They're not criminal cases. Why? Because to prove a criminal case of campaign violation, you have to prove that the candidate knowingly violated the campaign election laws, and prosecutors rarely are able to prove that because most people in America, candidates especially, don't even understand the incredibly complex laws. There's two things we learned from these memos today. One, in all three of them, there is no reference to Trump-Russia collusion to win the election. And the other thing we learned is that people like Manafort are refusing to tell Bob Mueller what Mueller wants to hear. In other words, if you don't abide by this Russian hoax, then we're going to throw the book at you and come after you with a vengeance.
You know, Sarah, people say, well, why do you compare all the things with the Clintons? Because we know she violated the Espionage Act. It is the single biggest slam dunk case on obstruction of justice. We know that Comey and Strzok wrote an exoneration before they ever investigated. Then Strzok wanted and expected Hillary to win $100 million to zero. Then it gets into, well, they exonerate her for crimes we know they commit. She then pays for a dossier that actually had real Russian lies in there that were spread to the American people. But also, what we learned this week in John Solomon's column is that, in fact, the FISA courts, the FBI, and all those people that signed those FISA warrants, they knew that they probably were false. They did it anyway. That is a fraud on the court.
That's absolutely right, Sean. What we have learned over the last nearly 2 years of investigations, both John Solomon and I, as well as congressional investigations, is one thing, that the special counsel was appointed to investigate a non-crime. There was no crime there. And what was out there was actual crimes and potential crimes over the last 2 years that have unraveled from Uranium One, and the testimony given by William Campbell about the dealings both with Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, and now the stories that have come out that John has put out there that are incredible, that there's hundreds of pages of documents that a whistleblower has turned over to Congress, several whistleblowers. We also know that General Flynn, I mean, incredibly, did not lie to the FBI agents. That came out of Comey's own mouth. Yet for some reason, Mueller was able to twist his arm and get him to admit to one count of lying so that he could drag this honorable man, this hero, through the ringer and, you know, take away his ability to defend himself publicly. What we need now, though, is a special counsel, a second special counsel to investigate this. And this is coming from lawmakers on the Hill, from attorneys who have been very well read on this issue. Whether William Barr, whether he gets nominated, becomes the new attorney general, whether he will appoint a second special counsel is vitally important now, because the American people deserve to know the truth, and the people who violated the laws, including the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, when they violated both the FBI and the DOJ to get that warrant on Carter Page, need to be held accountable, and it needs to be investigated.
But this is the thing, you know, Greg, we talk about Uranium One. William Campbell was, we had a spy inside of Putin's network, okay?
Sure.
We still allowed, even though we knew, he's reporting back bribery, kickbacks, money laundering, and all sorts of other crimes to the FBI.
Right.
They don't act. The deal actually goes through with Hillary's permission. Money from people involved gets sent back to the foundation. That's Russia. Russia got our uranium. Okay, nobody seems to care.
And the Clinton Foundation got $145 million from Russian sources related to that company.
I mean, serious money.
And Bill Clinton got $500 million.
Then we got the dossier.
Right.
You know, bought and paid for Russian lies. And it looks like James Comey is the only person on earth that believes that two hookers were urinating on Donald Trump's bed in the Ritz in Moscow.
Right.
Okay, Steele doesn't even believe it, but Comey apparently does based on some of his words today. So you go through this, we've got loan application lies, we've got taxes that weren't paid, we've got campaign finance violations, process crimes like lying to the FBI. But yet we have real Russian lies that the other candidate paid for. Nobody cares about that. Why? How is that possible?
You know, if there was any collusion, it was Hillary Clinton who paid for Russian information, fed it to the FBI and the Department of Justice to damage Donald Trump. And the FBI and DOJ ran with that. They used this phony dossier, and they knew it was fabricated. And the new emails that we'll get when they're declassified
well,
will
how many
prove
laws
that.
are broken when you lie to a... Why do I think if I was stupid enough to lie to a judge...
6 felonies.
You couldn't get me out of jail, and you're a pretty good
one
lawyer.
of them's abuse of power, obstruction of justice, perjury, the list goes on and on. When you deceive a court and conceal evidence, you're lying to them, you're perpetrating a fraud. You know, the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, John Roberts, is in charge of the FISA court. He should order the presiding judge to hold a show cause contempt hearing.
He's too busy hating on Trump, too, I guess. So
bring
doesn't he
James
appoint all 11
Comey and
FISA
Sally
court
Yates
judges?
and Andrew McCabe and Rod Rosenstein before that court to say, explain yourselves.
But we knew part of this. What John's blockbuster this week showed, we knew the part that they never told the FISA court that, in fact, Hillary paid for this document. They said it might have a political taint to it. That was as far as they went in a footnote.
In a footnote.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So now we know that our intel community had real problems with the dossier. Turns out Christopher Steele, in the end, wouldn't even stand by it.
Right.
So they go before a FISA court, not once, not twice, not three, 4 times, Sarah. And
That's right.
they're using information that they didn't verify or corroborate. Not only
Well,
that they suspected was false from the beginning. Why?
Absolutely.
For Russian lies.
Absolutely. And another problem that the intel community has, Sean, and you know this based on stories we wrote over a year ago, was the fact that they were unmasking Americans. And when are they going to investigate who unmasked General Michael Flynn, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, in those documents to the Washington Post? I mean, that's one of the most egregious violations in the intelligence community, is when you unmask an American's name. And we all believe we know where that came from. And it came from leakers within the government that wanted to push this type of collusion story forward, a false narrative. There wasn't even just that. Remember, over the 300 unmaskings that Samantha Powers was involved in, and all the other unmaskings, and the weaponization of the intelligence community. These are egregious acts that basically violated the foundation of our Constitution and what we stand on principle. So
well, let me
the
focus
only
in
thing
on
we
this.
can do.
One of the first articles you and John co-authored together had to do with